Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the world's greatest parenting podcast. This is Overly Honest Dads. I know it's a big claim to say this is the world's greatest parenting podcast, but trust me, I've listened to them all, so you don't have to, and they're all shit. We're the best. You're probably wondering who I am if you've not heard us before. My name's Matt and I host this wonderful show, and I'm joined inevitably by my two podcast pals, Magnus.
Hi guys.
And John.
Hello.
How are we all doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too tired. Very fucking tired.
Yes, well,
Amen.
We're still in some kind of lockdown life, and that life is hard. It's fair to say.
Agreed.
So yeah, let me tell you all podcast pals out there in the world what we have in store for you today. So we are going to be doing dad news to kick things off. This is where we give you news that's happened in the last week of our lives as dads. Then we have Dad Masterclass, which is where we give you a quick overview of a certain aspect of being a parent or just dad life in general. This week, Magnus is going to tell us about... Well, Magnus, why don't you tell us what your Dad Masterclass is for this week?
My Dad Masterclass will be how to make a puree for your weaning baby.
And that's going to be very of use for any dads to be out there. Or dads of newborn babies. And then we move on to the world of parenting, where our boffin, Magnus, gives us a science story, and John gives us a story that is maybe not quite so science focused. And then we round things off with Am I Being Unreasonable? Where
I've been downgraded from Jester.
It's not really a funny story, so I decided not to be a jester this week.
It's true.
But John is generally our jester. That is the role he fulfills on this show. And as he rudely interrupted me there, I'll say that Am I Being Unreasonable is where we take some posts from Mumsnet and we give our opinion on whether or not the people are being unreasonable. So that's your agenda for this 27th episode of Overly Honest Dads. 27 is my lucky number, so I'm hoping this will be a good show. So we're going to kick off with dad news, and Magnus, you're going first, so why don't you take the floor?
Well, as I said earlier on, I am bloody tired. So Romana woke up last Sunday, I think it was, with a really fucking gammy arm. Just out of nowhere. The day before she was fine, and then the next day she didn't have the use of her arm. Serious pain, like mega bad screaming pain. The next day she saw a doctor, a physio, an osteopath, and has been referred on for an MRI and whatnot. And for this entire week, she's not been able to take care of Quinn. So I've been waking up in the morning with Quinn, feeding her, taking care of her during the day, bathing her and putting her to bed at night, while also having a full-time job. So it's not been every day. She does have a babysitter now, as I said before, which is great. However, it has been the majority of the week. And oh, Jesus Christ, like juggling those two things. Oh,
yeah.
Ironically, juggling is the thing that Romana can't do if one of her arms is out of action.
Oh,
that is
Matthew.
harsh, but very true. I like it.
Matthew.
So she's had one of her arms has been out of action.
Mm-hmm.
How's the other arm doing?
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay.
Yeah. But it means that she can't really do much. She can't brush her hair. I have to do that for her. She can't tie like her hair into a ponytail with those, those rubber band things that women have. I don't even know what they are, but apparently I need to know what they are now.
Hairbands.
Are the hairbands? That's I know what that is. Yeah, a hairband.
Cute penis.
Yeah, I know. So I had to tie a woman's hair for the first time this week, and I gradually got better, which is
surprise.
Yeah,
she got you to do it 15 times until you did it properly. I'd imagine.
Pretty much. And
yep.
there was a lot of anguish, and she did not appreciate the first few times. But I got there in the end. However, as of today, it appears there's some progress. She's able to lift her arm up like a few inches and do something with it, but there's a good chance that I'm probably still waking up with Quinn tomorrow. We don't know how long this is going to go on until she has her MRI.
Yeah.
We don't know. But this really gave me an insight into taking care of a kid to that extent, which I haven't actually done before. So you got to take into account single parents or parents without support that also do that all year round. And that is where a super dad, super mum comes from. Now, that is seriously fucking intense. I have got bags under my eyes. I'm dead. I'm so drained. But yeah, thank fucking God I work from home.
Yeah, that's a blessing for sure. Anything else of note happened this week, Magnus?
Nothing. My week has been dominated by that.
Okay, well, be sure to give our best to Romana. We wish her and her arm all the very best.
Thanks,
and
guys.
you as well. Although it's probably not a bad idea for you to do some actual work in your life for a change, Magnus. So,
yeah, exactly.
Especially
6
after
months
you've
off.
essentially had like a 6-month holiday.
Yeah, it's true.
So this is just karma coming back round. John, what's been going on with you?
So this week has been old man, old dad week for me. I had some serious back pains, some serious old man back pains to the point that I had to go and see a physio. I mean, today I've been horizontal on cocodamol in pain and went to see an osteopath this morning. I have not had pain like this in a while, and it went out while I was running. And all of a sudden I'm realizing that maybe age is starting to kick in, and it's kind of pissing me off, I'll be honest. But it really, my lower back completely went out, and that pretty much took over the week because it started on Tuesday, and then pretty much the whole week I've been in pain. And because I've been sitting on this bloody chair that I'm on now working, it has not helped. In the end, I took today off. Do you have a good chair? Yeah, it's a good chair, but I think it's the way I sit. I don't know if you guys can see, I'm slouching a little bit, and I think I'm doing it to myself, really. But yeah. So yeah, completely wiped week of me being in pain, staring at the screen. Just not happy.
Are you wearing a pink gown?
Yeah, baby, silk pajamas and a pink gown, baby.
Okay, all right, brave man.
Yeah, it was an anniversary present from my wife a while ago as a joke, and I actually use it because it's quite warm when I'm in the garage. It's not bad.
And another question: this cocodamol, because Romana's been munching this regularly.
Mate,
so she's
you
got a big
can't
old
shit.
box. But what is that? So it's paracetamol and codeine.
Yeah, correct. And it stops
it like?
you shitting. It stops you shitting.
So
you literally
backed up.
It's like a warm hug.
Yeah,
it
is.
Like a warm hug. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Call it that.
You can see how people get addicted to opiates.
Right. Nice analogy. A warm hug.
A warm hug indeed. How about you, Matt? What's up with you this week?
Well, it's been a busy old week, but I do have some dad news that is slightly tragic, I suppose. It didn't happen to me, but it happened in the vicinity of me and Amelie when we were walking home from nursery. For anyone out there that doesn't know me, which hopefully is a majority of people listening. If there's only people that know me listening to this, that'd be quite sad. But anyway, I live in Walthamstow in London. And although I live on the outer edges of Walthamstow, so you guys have come around my house a lot, the sort of streets where I live are quite wide because they're built fairly recently. But most of the streets near us are very sort of small, narrow streets where you've got a lot of sort of what would have been workers' cottages for people that worked in factories around the area years ago. So when I go to get Amelie from nursery, we're walking along these very narrow streets, and it being London, there's cars parked on either side of the road and just enough space for one car to go down the middle. So I'm painting you a word picture here of what's happening.
Can I just add one thing to this? Is the roads where you live all over 20 mile an hour, absolute pain in the arse. You literally have to drive 20 mile an hour all around. But
people don't
I
stick
think
to that speed limit, though.
No, they don't. But there is a safety thing to it, which I think is useful with a 20 mile an hour speed limit. And
exactly. So anyway, Amelie and I are walking back from nursery one day, and there's some kids that play out in this particular road. I'm not going to mention the road, but there's some kids that always play out on this road, and it's quite normal for me to be walking down there, and they're playing right in the middle of the road where cars come by. And so Amelie and I are walking back, and all of a sudden I hear an impact and then people screaming, and I look behind me and a car has hit a young boy. And the driver of the car got out really quickly and said, "Oh, I didn't see him coming. He just came out of nowhere." And we actually couldn't see the kid for a while. We looked under the wheels of the guy's car, the guy who hit him, and the kid wasn't there. But about maybe 10 feet away, under a different car, the kid was underneath it. Underneath a stationary car, so he got hit by the impact and knocked underneath another car. And no one around them had their phone on them. I imagine the driver did, but he didn't seem like he was going to hang around very long. And I'm not really sure what happened to him. I didn't keep up with him in the panic, but as no one else had a phone on them, I phoned the emergency services and called an ambulance and was on the phone to them for quite a while and trying to feed information about the kid and what he was doing. They were asking things like, is he moving? Is he bleeding? Is he crying? Has anyone moved him? That kind of stuff. And then a couple of minutes in, Amelie had the mother of all meltdowns pounds.
Bless her.
She couldn't keep herself together because she could tell I was stressed. She could hear a lot of other people being stressed, and she didn't have any frame of reference to put it, to process it and make sense of what was happening. And so she just lost it entirely. So I was trying to get information from the family of the boy who'd been knocked over, and lots of people had come out. It seems like a lot of people on the street knew each other, so lots of people came out and were crowding around. And yeah, Emily melting down, me on the phone to emergency services. It was a bad time. Yeah. Thankfully, I think the kid was okay. The boy would have been about 4 or 5, I think.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah. Damn. And I think he did just literally come out of nowhere. I don't think the driver could have done a great deal about it. And so one of the reasons I mentioned this isn't just to tell a morbid story, but it's actually something that's been playing on my mind a lot with Emily now that she is of an age where sometimes we walk places without taking the pushchair. Like today, we walked home from nursery without the pushchair, and she just held my hand, or I've carried her part of the distance. And so now that this is happening, I'm starting to care a lot more about road safety and trying to instill some of the basics in Emily. And sometimes Alex, my wife, she seems a lot more relaxed about this than me, but I kind of think if you're going to be strict about something, road safety is the thing to be strict about, because the last thing you ever want is for there to be any you only need to make a mistake once for it to have a permanent consequence. So a bit morbid, this dad news, but I thought it was worth recounting because it happened. It didn't directly involve me or Emily, but it certainly, taught me a lesson. And hopefully, it's one of those situations where you can learn from other people's mistakes rather than letting your own kids make them themselves.
Respect the speed limit, people.
Absolutely. Goodness me. I've had Quinn run out on the road once. We have very, very quiet and 20-mile-per-hour roads. The whole fucking borough is 20 miles per hour, which you were complaining about, John. But
it's useful. I mean,
it is. If you get hit with a car that's going at 20, then you're likely to be okay-ish as opposed to 30. And she fucking just pulled her hand away from me and ran out in the road. And there's no cars. However, if there was one, what could have happened? Goodness me. I know that kids at that age are made of rubber, but it's besides the point.
Yeah, no, it's scary.
I can't even begin to imagine what the parents of that child were feeling. That's a heavy story, Matt. That is really heavy.
Normally it's a fun podcast, but there you go. Serious subject.
It was dad. It's news that happened to me as a dad and impacted on my life as a dad. So
it's
my dad news. Deal with it.
Is she okay? No, jokes aside, is she okay though, Emily? After that, how long did it take for her to calm down?
She was pretty much fine. I mean, at this age, it's hard to know what they take in and what they just kind of what bounces off them. But everything's fine as far as I can tell.
Good.
Yeah. Good.
Great. So This is where we take the first brief break of this podcast. When we come back, Magnus is going to tell us about purees and weaning. This is going to be exciting stuff, everyone. So join us in just a moment for Magnus's Dad Masterclass. Welcome back to Waverly Honest Dads. So now it's time for Dad Masterclass, and Magnus is taking this week's Masterclass. So Magnus, take it away.
Right, so I wanted to discuss with you good people how to make a puree for your weaning baby. Now, before you make that puree, it's important to wait for signs of readiness in your kid. So usually they'll tell you. That's a joke. They're not going to tell you. So signs will include.
That was a shit joke.
Did that joke drop? I flipping loved it when I came up with it on the toilet. Sitting upright for a minute or so. They can coordinate their hands and mouth. They don't have the reflex for spitting food out as well. So that's generally around the 4, 5, 6 month mark. I think the NHS says to do it from 6 months, but it's kind of up to you. Now there are different types of weaning. There's one puree with food, gradually beginning to become more viscous and then more textured. There's baby-led weaning, which I think we've heard of before, where you give them everything in soft, bite-sized pieces, and they pick and choose. And the third way is a combination of both. Okay, now a method for preparing the food for them is you get 2 or 3 very, very simple ingredients, for example, carrots or peas, okay? And then you leave a few steamed pieces of the same ingredients for them to explore and to chew on to the side of the puree. And from there on, you progress. Now, it's good to start with fruits and vegetables around that age, 6 months. They start slowly to figure out what works for them. And then from there, you can, start to get more adventurous. Now, something to point out as well, depending upon what you're doing, if you're breastfeeding or you're formula feeding, because formula and breast milk is kind of sweet, babies tend to like sugary food like fruit or sweet vegetables. It's just the way their palate develops. So it's important to throw in maybe some more bittery fruits in there. Could be, I don't know, Brussels sprouts, broccoli.
Is that fruit?
Vegetables.
Fruits.
Sorry, like fruit or sweet vegetables, right? Is what they tend to like. But you can throw in mainly vegetables to bitter things up. Now, going over to the actual process of pureeing, one of Quinn's favourite combinations was carrot, parsnips, and broccoli, and we would chop it into stick pieces. Bung it into a steam blender, so you get these little blenders. I think we got it from Woucher even. It was like 28 quid, something like that. It was a blender that also steamed the food. It ended up blowing itself up after about 4 months, so we left that to one side. But if you don't have this, you can use a microwave steamer or one of these metal basket things. If you search on Amazon, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And then you can just go at it with a hand blender, okay? Now, for the same preparation, you can take out the unblended pieces that you've steamed to use as exploration food. And that whole period is a whole load of fun for them. It's new. The first time you give a baby puree and you put it in their mouth or close to their mouth, their tongue will probably start out, go to lick it, they'll be like, oh, this is disgusting, but then they'll start to try it like, this is interesting. It's a whole load of fun. It's a whole load of really, really messy fun. But yeah, that's how you puree food.
Curiosity, or see if you know, why do you steam and not boil vegetables? For babies in particular.
Well, with steaming, apparently, it stops the denaturing of enzymes.
Man, you are the boffin. You are the boffin. That's exactly the reason why. That is exactly the reason why. Is
that what it is? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I remember that from
They
some
lose
time ago.
minerals and a few things when you boil them. They sort of go in the water. Whether if you steam them, it all stays in the vegetable.
Yeah. So it's good to steam, and it's very, very easy to steam. If you get that thing that I was telling you about, just look for flipping, I don't know, manual steamer or something. It's like a £5, if not less, and it opens up like a satellite dish, and you just bung it in to a pot, or you can get like a rice, like the £5 rice steamers that you put into the microwave. You can also use that, and it works just as well. So have some fun, go crazy with the combinations. It's a time for them to explore, give them the opportunity to find out what they like, and then you can take things from there. Because when it gets
does she still like? I was about to say actually, does she still like the puree stuff now or not?
No.
Past the year, no.
No way. No way. There has to be some texture to it. And one of the things that she likes now is chicken on the bone, and she really, really goes for it on there.
Really?
Yeah, she loves it.
Oh, wow.
So she likes meat providing she likes meat providing it's on the bone.
My kids do not like meat. Apart from salami, they don't like meat at all. They're really against it for some reason. It's the vegan in them. Apart from the salami.
Where did that come from? Was that from Elisa?
I've no idea. They just never liked it. No, she's a pure meat eater, but they just never liked meat for some reason.
Okay, there we are.
And I've tried, pork crackling and chicken and turkey, all sorts of things. They just don't like it. They like KFC, But that's a different story because that's just really unhealthy and salty. But that's
it's the salt that does it for them. Well, look, I'm probably the person from our little group that eats the less meat and arguably the most masculine. And my kid doesn't like meat. Oh no, she loves meat. Romana loves meat, so it's one of those things where we're just hoping that she doesn't have my.
I don't eat that much meat, to be fair. So fuck.
Oh, okay. We're just hoping that she doesn't have my narrow kind of palate. And that's what you don't want.
Well, you just a singular taste of just a bunch of things and that's it? Or
yeah, kinda. I'm allergic to quite a few things as well, and Quinn doesn't appear to be allergic to anything. She flipping just munches everything, but she's starting to get picky, and I think like we're wondering whether or not it's part of her journey of being a toddler, because toddlers can, this is where a lot of issues with foods develop. Is at this age, and we're hoping that
giving them the options.
Exactly, we're hoping it's not something which is caused by or genetic or otherwise. It's just part of the journey, and she won't actually be.
Yeah.
Because Romana can.
Yeah, you want her to be a fruitarian, but it's not going to happen, is it?
Well, I'm okay with her eating everything. Yeah, I just don't want her to have the kind of pickiness that I have, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's fair enough. What about you, Matt? What's your weaning process like? What did you go from foods? Was it purees?
Well, I think we covered it on the podcast because it was around. I think it's around the time we started doing it. But we did baby-led weaning, and so we just gave her food and she ate it. And
she pick and choose.
Well, it's not like we gave a lot of options. We just put food in front of her and she ate it. I mean, certainly my experience with it demonstrated that it wasn't something you really had to think that much about. You have to think about what food's going to be suitable and make sure that there's no choking hazards. But aside from that, there was no complication, no fuss. We just started giving her food one day. There weren't really any hitches to speak of. It was really straightforward. Cool. Now, Magnus, do you have any more for us as part of that masterclass, or is that you done?
It's super simple. Just get some vegetables, steam them and blend them, and give them to your baby.
Or get a Big Mac, put that in a blender, put it in a sippy cup, mix it with some apple juice.
Lovely.
Absolutely. Or
Bob's your mother's brother.
No.
Give them Ribena, but don't dilute it.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, brilliant tip. Thank you there, Magnus. So we're going to take another brief break now, and when we return, it's time for the world of parenting. So join us for that in just a moment. Welcome back to the 27th episode of Overly Honest Dads. So it's time for the world of parenting. This is where our boffin, Magnus, gives us some kind of science story. And John, who for this week is not a jester, will give us a slightly different kind of parenting story. So Magnus, tell us what your story is for this week.
Right, thank you very much. Now, a new report from UNICEF and Pure Earth, if you've not heard of them before, they're a non-profit dedicated to solving pollution problems in low and middle income countries. They make the claim that 800 million children today are still exposed to lead poisoning. Okay, now,
really?
Yeah. 800 million. I know, that's exactly what I thought as well. Now, humans have got a long and colourful history with lead going back to antiquity. As with most metals, it is found in ore. Lead's most common ore is called galena, which is also a source of silver. So you can imagine in the pursuit of silver, there's usually a lot of lead which is left over. Now, lead is one of those insidious substances that if you have a lot of long-term exposure to, it's rewarded with experiencing its toxicity in the form of severe damage to the brain and kidneys, which in a lot of cases, unfortunately, is lethal. It's an extremely toxic metal, so don't lick it. Now, with that being said, lead has found a hell of a lot of usefulness in things like weights, lead glass, radiation protection, ammunition, pigments, storing of corrosive liquids, and also in cars. Okay. Now, on a tangential but relevant point, or related point, should I say, in the early 1900s, there was a scientist called Thomas Midgley. I'm sure I've brought him up before. He ended up being recognised as the organism that had the single greatest negative impact on the entire planet ever in 4.5 billion years. He developed CFCs that destroyed the ozone layer, and he also developed leaded gasoline, which reduced the IQ of everyone on the planet. Good going. Now, once we figured out that lead was causing all of us to be fucking thick, we got rid of it. However, not in car batteries. That was really, really useful. Okay. Now, the report from UNICEF and Pure Earth goes on to claim that car batteries that are not recycled responsibly are a major contributor to this problem, as are things like water pipes. I know for a fact that my mum still has leaded water pipes, which explains a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for sure.
That's messed up.
I know. Paint, there's lead in paint, which I know a lot of companies have tried to get rid of, but there are some applications for it. Contaminated spices, which really surprised me, and also makeup, all of which will fuck you up. And one of the researchers, Grodeli Villanger from Pure Earth, said, "This is concerning."
No, really? Surprise, surprise, motherfucker.
Yeah. So, watch out for that stuff. We're all making our kids dumb. It's still about. Lead is bad. What more can be said?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, thanks for that, Magnus. John, tell us your story.
Cool. So my story, surprisingly enough, for once, is not just a funny story, but quite on a serious side, on the whole gender equality aspect, which is quite interesting. And Matthew, once again, thank you for organising this and finding the article.
My pleasure.
So the title of the article is "Dad Furious After Being Told to Leave Parents' Room Because It's Just for Mums." So Josh Anderson has been left feeling absolutely furious after he was told to get out of a parent's room because of his gender. The father who lives in New Zealand was confronted by a woman when he tried to take his 5-month-old daughter Vienna to the baby changing room in a shopping mall in Auckland. The parent simply wanted to change his daughter's nappy during a shopping trip, but was told the space was just for mums. It's quite interesting because it shows a picture of the sign on the door, and it shows parent-child toilet, but it shows 2 female symbols on the outside, and that's what the mum was thinking or using as a reasoning. Now, this is quite interesting overall. I think it's just and this is not a mum's net post, but I just think it takes the piss, though. If it's a baby's changing room, it doesn't matter the gender. Your parent is a parent, in my opinion. You're allowed to go in. That's my view. And I don't see people taking the right to tell people to fuck off.
I'm going to guess
of their gender.
It was a women's bog as well, right?
No, it wasn't a women's bog. It was a parent room. It wasn't a women's bog. It was a separate room.
Well, that's fucking stupid. But
then
again, he's got a 5-month-old. He's probably not feeling as confident as most people.
Yeah.
He's probably been battered from having a 5-month-old as well. So he couldn't challenge it.
Yeah.
If that was me now, I would be like, I'm planting myself like a fucking tree, changing my kid.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And again, it's just annoying because we keep talking about fairness, right, left and centre, but fairness of parents are parents, no matter the gender, so just let them do what they need to do in the spaces provided. I mean, this is ridiculous in my opinion, but yeah, interesting article, so thanks.
No, my pleasure, and I thought it was relevant. So one thing, it reminded me that recently I was talking to Alex about when Emily gets potty trained. So my daughter's named Emily, and it's not that long till she'll be potty trained. I think we're going to start trying it soon. She's nearly 2, and when she is potty trained and using a toilet, when I'm out and about, I mean, at least the way I remember it from when I was young, is that dads who had daughters would take the daughters into the bloke's toilet and put them in, take them into a cubicle. But Alex told me I should go into the women's toilet and take Emily.
Nah, you'll get shot,
and
mate.
it's like, for some reason, I'm not sure if my wife's just crazy or thick. But yeah, no, she's neither of those things. She
wants you dead, maybe. I don't
she's
know.
Wonderful. But yeah, I'm not going to take her into. I'm not going to take my daughter into a woman's toilet.
Did you just call your wife thick?
Lazy or thick? Oh,
Lazy or thick? Wow.
And then retracted because he remembers she listens to the podcast.
She's listened
on occasions.
Once. Alex would not have that. I know she would not have that.
Oh no, she'd have my guts for garters, and as well she should, because I shouldn't disrespect my wife on something we put out into the world. Sorry, Alex.
Indeed.
I'm really sorry. So anyway, we're going to take a very brief break now, and
Trousers
When
say
we
what?
return, it's going to be time for Am I Being Unreasonable? So hold on to your hats, listeners out there. We're going to be back in a few short moments. Welcome back to the final segment of this episode of Overly Honest Dads. And as regular listeners will know, it's time for Am I Being Unreasonable? So we're going to get right into it today. And the first post is from someone called The Jessica Clark. I'm guessing her name is Jessica Clark. And her post is titled, Am I Being Unreasonable to ask you to pray for Donald and Melania? And the post just says, please. So to give you some context, listeners, today's date is the 2nd of October. And this morning we all woke up to the news that Donald and Melania Trump have COVID-19.
Celebration.
What do we think?
So it's not nice to wish bad on anyone, okay? But the guy that doesn't wear masks and has taken Corona very lightly, even though it's a very serious situation and 200,000 people in the US have died of it, I think this is just karma. So in a way, this lady needs to shut up about praying for Trumpy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so on to the next one. So the next thread is by a poster called Where's the Fire? And the title is Shouted at in Lidl, which is something that no one wants. I mean, you know, Lidl's fine. I don't mean to be disparaging about Lidl, but you don't be shouted at when you're there. Anyway, the post reads as follows. Whoa. This morning, I went to Lidl. I had a shopping trolley full. I had a shopping trolley full and queued up behind a lady. I didn't put anything on the belt and kept back. An elderly gentleman was behind me with 3 or 4 items in a basket. He had a walking stick, so I asked him if he wanted to go in front of me. He thanked me and put his shopping on the belt. He was at least 1 metre away from the lady in front, and we all had masks on. Well, the woman went ballistic, shouting at us, wagging her finger, shouting at us to keep away, and don't we know there's a virus about, it's not funny, etc., etc. I'm afraid I shouted back, saying if she's that worried, maybe get her shopping delivered. I felt so sorry for the gentleman. He didn't know what had hit him. What do we think?
Mag, I'll let you go first.
No, I'm very keen to hear your thoughts, John. You are storing them up.
You see, no, you know what it is? It's the fact that this level of paranoia is there and people live with it, and the stress level because of Corona in people's lives is very high. So I feel for the lady that lost it, and I feel for the other people. I just think it's a very stressful time. I do agree with the lady, get your shopping online. We get our shopping online. I don't have to go into Sainsbury's because, to be honest, it pisses me off when people don't wear masks. But, you know, that's my issue, and I order it and get it home delivered. But yeah, again, it's a stressful time, man. It's a very stressful time for everybody. So I can't blame one side or the other because the paranoia is there because of Corona. People are scared, are literally in fear of this thing.
Yeah, I've got to agree with John. It's
hey, for
once, I fucking agree with him. It is. It's a ridiculous time. It's anxiety inducing. It's just having so much paranoia about just walking about in the street and just being around people, you know, even if you are at a social distance from them, it causes people to act and think very weird things. So I get it. I get it.
Okay. So our next post is...
What do you think, Matt? Out of curiosity.
I think you probably encompassed my thoughts in what you guys said there. So
well,
I don't think there's a great deal that I could add to that.
Hey,
so
we're united front.
The next post is from a poster called Keep Going 88, and the post thread is Am I a Bitch? The post reads as follows.
Probably.
A few times recently, my husband has been saying he never cries, but today I made him cry. I've wondered if he's depressed, but he doesn't seem to think so. Although I think it's a lot to do with the constant working from home he is now stuck with. I'm so busy with work and kids, often coming home to the house being in a natural state and just spending most of my free time cooking and cleaning. I've been encouraging him to go out, stay the night with his parents, who he gets on well with, just to get him a break from being in our house, but also from me. Tonight he told me in front of the kids to stay away from him, when I half joked it may be because he's had enough of childcare, as he had the kids stay for a bit whilst I worked. The thing is, he often goes out. In fact, he just went swimming on his own whilst my son had his swimming lesson. He just said, how about a little bit of emotional support? So I said, fine, I'll have the kids Just do what you need to do. And then he's dropped off. The thing he finds overwhelming, like watching the kids for a few hours, I do regularly. And I feel I just have to get on with it. I just don't know if I'm being harsh or on him, or he needs to man up a bit. I'm sat here crying and feel really lonely and like I've done something wrong. I find life hard, but I'm just trying to get on with it as best as possible. I came back from work and there were fingerprints all over the walls and food everywhere. Nothing had been tidied away or clean, no dinner made. And he was just like, oh my God, it's been so hard. I just need to rant.
I think it sounds of depression on both ends there, to be honest.
Yeah, it sounds like things are at a breaking point, doesn't it? It really does.
Yeah.
I think it's an example of where your domestic life can become all consuming, that if you don't put it into perspective or have either an outlet or someone to help you out, then it can just get on top of you.
This is why I say it's a really good idea to join a gun club.
Jesus Christ, Magnus.
You fucking nutcase.
By the way,
It is very relaxing.
Oh, boy.
Listeners, we do not condone guns.
No, we don't condone guns.
I
no.
kind of do, I guess, a little bit. I do like them.
Yeah.
Sort of.
No, but jokes aside, I mean, I think us doing this podcast has helped the three of us during lockdown. I have to be honest, I think us having this let out has been great. And I think a lot of people don't have the break. And it sounds like both of them are under a lot of pressure. Again, I do think this COVID thing has put people under a ton of pressure. And couples and families, because you're now, let's say before you were taking your kid you're living in London, you were in a tiny 2-bedroom flat somewhere in London. You were taking your kid to nursery and all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden, both of you are working from home. You've got the kid there. It's a small space. The stress levels go through the roof in lockdown. And I think that has really impacted a lot of people. And I feel for people like this. I really do. I'm sounding really, really nice this week. I should call this woman a bitch, but I don't think
it is confusing me. You are being very, very
I'm being
tolerant.
very nice,
very reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm being reasonable. What the fuck, man? No, fuck Karen. That's
Okay.
what I say. And Stacey. Hello,
Okay, well,
Stacey.
I've got a Karen post for you next. So,
Yes.
I think it's kind of Karen-esque. So let's see. But this is going to be the last one for this week. The poster is called Banking Switch. And the post is titled, Am I Being Reasonable to be angry with my husband who booked my flu shot? Been at my desk since 7 a.m. I go to the toilet for 10 minutes this afternoon to find my husband has booked my flu shot for a time I did not want. Phone rang, he picked up and it was the surgery on behalf of the NHS to book this year's flu shot for me. He had the choice of 2 appointments, 9am and 10:30am. He booked the second one. I always make medical appointments for first thing if I have a choice. He knows this. If there was no choice in appointment, I could accept that, but there was. Also annoyed because I'm a high-risk patient, and now another 20 people will have been through the room I have to use before I even get there. He says it will be fine. He's so laid back all the time. He thought we could just go for a walk afterwards if we went later. I'm more interested in not catching COVID right now. I'm happy to hide out from COVID and flu, but I don't like having to go into situations like this. Am I being unreasonable?
If you said this to me 10 years ago, I'd be like, what the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. But now I'm in a relationship and people have nuances which you need to accommodate in a relationship. Like that is perfectly reasonable.
No,
is perfectly reasonable. People.
Why don't you fucking call the place herself then, for fuck's sake? She don't fucking like what you're doing and fucking call it yourself.
That is perfectly reasonable. If that's her routine.
There you go, I'm back.
But if that's her routine, guys, then you accommodate that. Like, you're not going to say to me, if one of your partners does something with regularity, you go against it.
But I'm not my wife's secretary
for the rest
either.
of the humanity, it's perceptively retarded. No, come on, you must agree with that.
No, I disagree. Again, this particular item is a secretarial job. She can fucking do it herself if she doesn't like the way I do it. Simple as. And she can just fucking, if she'd like
all right, fine, so be it.
She can fuck off. That's all I say.
To be fair,
we'll agree to disagree.
The vast majority of the denizens of Mumsnet are saying that she is unreasonable. She's overthinking it. She can book it herself if she wants to. So Magnus, Mumsnet says you're wrong and you're stupid.
Am I whipped?
And Normie John agrees with Mumsnet.
Oh, there we are.
Okay, well that is the end of this episode. So thank you everyone out there for listening to us. We really do appreciate your time and your attention and for letting us come into your ears. It's an
Never
oldie,
gets
but it's
old.
a goodie. So if you feel like reaching out to us, you can do exactly that, and I'm going to tell you how. You can send us an email, and you can send that to overlyhonestdads@gmail.com. That's overlyhonestdads@gmail.com. Send us questions, comments, abuse, feedback, whatever you want. We'll gratefully receive it. You can also check out some questionable memes that John posts on Instagram. That's at Overly Honest Dads. You can also listen to us on YouTube if that's your thing. If you want us in the background of your day, up on your computer screen, on your laptop screen, then you can do that. The option's there. Just go to YouTube, put in Overly Honest Dads, you'll be able to find us. I think that's all the housekeeping, so that means that all that's left for me to do is to thank Magnus,
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
to thank John,
Thank
thank
you,
myself,
Matthew.
thank you, me, and we'll see you again next time for more Overly Honest Dads. In the meantime, take care, be good to yourselves and to each other. Bye.